Hello everyone and you random YouTube viewers. Finally doing a kind of bookend video for my 70 GTO. Honestly, I wasn't even going to do it because I hit several major roadblocks and it just got really frustrating. And but yeah, I finally got her done and figured since somebody asked, I'd kind of walk you through everything that happened and kind of the snags that I hit. So in case you're considering doing one of these things, you learn from my mistakes, and hopefully you might be able to hear something that makes yours go a little bit smoother. So I think the last video I did was 3 years ago, and I thought I was going to be really close to driving it, but that was not the case. And there's still a few things here and there that need to be done. I'm gonna add some sound deadener to it because it's pretty loud, but that is these old cars and that's fine. But cruising around, and then I'm probably gonna change out the front shocks and springs and some other little things. But yeah, she runs, she drives. So to get right into it, I think the last video I talked that I had dropped in the engine, and all I needed, I was so close, was to get some stuff wired up and a few odds and ends, get the engine broken in, and I'd be on my way. Easy enough. But that was not the case. So like I said, I'll kind of walk everything through, and hopefully you can learn something from my mistake. Okay, so the first major snafu I hit was actually finding a shop to work on this thing. Found one shop, I live in Texas, so it was in Fort Worth. I don't live in Fort Worth, but he had it for about a year, and he was supposed to take everything through, but he was a normal, just mechanic shop. It wasn't a restoration shop. And unfortunately, this kept on getting put on the back burner. He did install the exhaust, and he did some clutch, worked on some of the clutch, but that was it. And he pretty much let me know it was going to be on the back burner. And I understood, that was his bread and butter, but eventually it just got to the point where I couldn't wait any longer. And I pulled it out of there and started to look for another shop, and that is when the frustrations kind of started to mount, because believe it or not, I could not find anybody who wanted to work on this thing. And this was 2023, maybe the tail end of 2022, and no, it was 2023. But couldn't find a shop. It would follow the same formula. I would find a shop, I'd call them, tell them what I was doing. They would say, great, bring it in next week. I would call them next week. They'd say, hey, we're a little backed up. Call us in a week or two. I'd call them back. They'd say they're still backed up, and they'd say, we'll call you. And then I'd never hear from them again. So that took forever. I did eventually find a shop, and the first major thing was my core support. Had a stock core support, had a stock radiator, but I could not get this stupid thing to fit. And after doing some investigation, this shop, the previous shop, couldn't figure it out either. But apparently when I bought this aftermarket core support, they had stamped the top of that wrong. So he had to basically cut off the top of it, fix the alignment, and then weld it, and of course then the radiator dropped right in. And then he did the wiring on the dash. He did the wiring on the engine, and then he was going to go break it in, and that's when the first real roadblock happened, because my engine, despite being rebuilt, and apparently the engine shop that I took it to did not do it the right way. He installed incorrect push rods and some other incorrect parts, and at the time this shop did not have a dyno, and so he didn't run it, so we didn't catch it until he was trying to break in the engine. The mechanic was trying to break in the engine, and he was breaking rocker arms and everything else. So contacted the engine shop. I'm not going to mention him because ultimately he stood by his work. He didn't argue with it. He admitted that he made a mistake. He probably doesn't want his name being dropped anyway, but he actually had integrity. He took care of the problem, no questions asked, and I really appreciate it. So got the rocker arms changed, the push rods changed, ended up changing the lifters because just out of caution, and got it running. And then I drove it home, and it ran like dog crap. The carburetor, which was the original Rochester Quadrajet, was not getting enough gas to the engine, and this was, I don't know, this is all on me, but I put Ram Air 3 heads and exhaust manifolds on this, and I guess I just didn't think that it would have a problem with the original carburetor, but the original carburetor did not get enough gas to it. So that second shop rebuilt the carburetor, and it still was not getting enough gas. So I had to then just go out and buy a Holly and install that, and that fixed the problem. Okay, so after I got the new carb installed, everything was buttoned up, seemed to be running fine. Got it home, drove it pretty sparingly for, I don't know, a month maybe, and then I wanted to have my radio. The mechanic shop didn't want to hook up the radio, so took it somewhere to get the radio installed and wired up, and that's when I heard a knocking sound, which was, needless to say, pretty disheartening, considering the trouble I just had with the engine. So found a third shop that actually had a dyno, and I got it over to them, didn't drive it, I had it towed, and as soon as they pulled it off the flatbed, they said, "You've got major engine issues." So lo and behold, that same engine builder had installed wrong parts again, and it had caused some, I guess, significant damage to my heads and some other parts. So had to have the engine work done again. He owned up to his mistake. He covered the cost of everything, parts, labor, everything. So the heads had to be rebuilt. I had to have new lifters put in, push rods, rockers, everything. And had to have a new, even though I'd had it rebuilt, I don't know what happened, but the power steering pump went out on it. Had to have some other stuff. Oh, my gearbox, which is the only part that I did not have rebuilt. That's the part that started leaking as soon as I was driving it. And I briefly toyed with the idea of rebuilding it myself, but ultimately it was just cheaper to just buy a new gearbox. So I have that installed. Just some other minor things done to it. So yeah, that's pretty much the story. And now it's running, drives real well. I do eventually am gonna need to have some little bit of body work done, because the body shop that I took it to, I guess alignment is not their forte. They simply work on paint and body. So you can see how bad the gap is on this side. It's actually starting to chip down there because of it. So when I have the means, I will be taking it back and just having them fix the alignment. But other than that, everything works. Let's see. Oh, and one last thing. Somewhere along the lines, my clutch went out, even though it was a brand new clutch. Something, either that first shop was not on their game that day when they installed the clutch, or something happened, I don't know. But clutch went out, had to replace the clutch, but everything else works. So I guess if anybody's wanting to do this, don't take it to different shops. I regret taking it to one shop for the paint body, one for the engine, one for the interior. It's just easier. You're going to save yourself a lot of hassle just taking it to one shop. Finding one shop, taking it there, have them do the work. That way you can kind of, you can be there step by step, and if something goes wrong, you're not trying to get a hold of the previous shop to figure out what they did and blah 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 blah. So that's pretty much it. I'll go through how much it cost me to put this thing together. All right, now down to the nitty-gritty. So I bought this car back in 2015 off eBay for $82.50. Cost me about $1,000. I ended up going up there and getting it myself, because unless you're going to use one of the like reliable carrier or one of the big companies, just do it yourself, because I guarantee you 98% of the other carriers, it's all a scam. They'll take your money. They'll tell you they can have it there in 2 weeks. Then all you'll get is delay. Oh, my guy's thing broke down. Oh, he had another job. It's just, go get it yourself. Unless you want to pay $2,000 to have one of the carriers do it. I spent about a little over $2,100 just on eBay buying parts, the alternator, power steering pump, gearbox, all that stuff. Bits and pieces here and there. Polyurethane suspension kit, $316. Inline tube, I spent a ton of money with them. All good parts. I went with the steel weather stripping, so that was $611. Bought the interior kit from Legendary. Well worth it if you can afford it. Seat brackets that were missing from my car. Chrome, that's the rear bumper, and like the trim, some of the trim on the front end, the headlight bezels, that cost me $1,000. Had the, sandblast seat frames. To have my alternator rebuilt was $148. Well worth it. Master cylinder, same thing. Power steering pump again, but it ended up being a waste of money because ended up having to replace it. New radiator from year one, I believe, and then having my original Quadrajet rebuilt cost me $245, and that's not including the gamble I took where I told that mechanic shop, rebuild it with bigger jets and see if that solves the fuel delivery problem. That was another $300. So I ended up spending roughly $500 on a carb. I ultimately ended up selling it for about $350 to help offset the cost, but yeah, that was a waste of money. I went ahead and bought a new Holly carb for $800. Had the drive shaft rebuilt, had the transmission rebuilt. Summit Racing is my clutch and a bunch of other parts. When I was having the car, the paint and body done on the car, the bumper that I bought with the car turned out to be garbage. It was just covered in Bondo and a bunch of other crap, and it was just cheaper to buy a new one. So I found an original 70 GTO bumper off Craigslist. Got it for, I think, pretty good deal, $500. Ram Air 3 exhaust manifolds I had to buy because I had Ram Air 3 heads. Engine build, $6,146.94, and that's not including the money the guy had to pay to have new parts installed. I think it was probably about another $4,000 to $5,000 in additional costs that guy covered because he built the engine wrong. And again, I really appreciate him having some integrity, because that would have been a absolute nightmare to take him to court and everything else. Just Dashes did my dash restoration. I did a video years and years ago when I got that back. Worth every penny, in my opinion. If you can afford it, worth every penny, because my dash looks awesome. Everything is new, it works, it's perfect. New steering box. That was because when I bought this car, it had a manual steering box on it, even though it had power steering, so I wanted that. That's the one that ended up leaking, and I eventually had to replace. The body shop, that's paint body, installing some weather stripping, doing some other odds and ends. If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have taken it to them, just because of all the issues that I found after I got the car back. But it is what it is. Took it somewhere else. They installed the interior. That cost me $4,000. They did the seats. They did, everything on the interior. Sent my hood hinges out to be restored. That was worth it. Radio restoration. Even though I'm probably going to end up replacing the radio, just because I have an AM radio and I live out in the country. It's really hard to get anything on the radio. Not that I really want it for, blasting tunes, but it'd be nice if it worked. That first shop, the one that had it for about a year, all they did was the exhaust, connect the exhaust, hook up some of the clutch. That cost me almost $1,000. The second shop, they did a lot of the work, don't have any problems with them. And then the third shop, they're the ones that had to fix, the engine issues. They replaced, you know, all the clutch, and they did everything else. So, you want a grand total estimation, because there's some stuff that I am missing to do this car. Almost $70,000, and I'm probably forgetting some stuff. It's probably a little bit more than $70,000. I'm happy. Like I said, I know I made a ton of mistakes that going back, if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have just taken it to one restoration shop and had them do everything. But now I have a car that I can enjoy when it's not balls ass hot here in Texas, because this thing, of course, doesn't have AC, and I'm not gonna install AC, but you know, that means I can enjoy it a couple times during the year. But yeah, so I hope this has been somewhat informative. If you have any questions, you can shout them out, and y'all have a good day.